Welcome to the Tudor Dixon Podcast. You can already hear that this is going to be an interesting one because today I am joined by one of Michigan's very own, Ted Nugent. He was born and raised in Detroit, cemented his place in rock and roll history as one of the greatest guitar players of all time, as you just heard there. He wrapped up his farewell rock and roll tour saying he's done with life on the road so he can spend more time with family. Ted Nugent, we were just talking about family. We're talking about how important family is to people across this country, how you have actually impacted other people's lives as well. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, Tudor Dixon, you and I deserve each other because you are a hero for the American families who want to return to. We live currently and always, but we want to return our government and our society into truth, logic, and common sense. So much love to you and your family during this wonderful September 1st, opening day of deer season, most states of the nation, opening day of dove season, where literally, as you and I speak right now, tens of millions of American families are out there hunting doves on September 1st. So happy opening day.
Hey, I want to get into that because there's a few things that I want to talk specifically Michigan. Before I do, I want to talk about something else really quick. Before I get into that with Ted, I want to talk to you about EnviroKlenz. I have it in my home. When you think about air purifiers in your home, you need to ask yourself, are all air purifiers the same? And if not, then why did the U.S. Department of Defense select EnviroKlenz to protect and purify the air on board our Navy ships? We actually use it in our house because one of my girls suffers from severe seasonal allergies and it's changed her life. No more headaches, no more swollen eyes, no more bloody noses. And EnviroKlenz uses patented earth mineral technology plus a hospital-grade HEPA filter. This technology is so powerful. Listen to this. It actually destroys cold and flu and COVID. I know that's what you guys wanted to hear. Also, as I said, those allergy inflaming toxins and mold, even more. Their hospital-grade technology is so powerful. Like I said, it's used on our Navy ships and in thousands of classrooms. The EnviroKlenz promises far fewer colds and allergies and better sleep. You're going to receive a free air quality monitor with your purchase. And honestly, I say test the difference in your own home. Visit ekpure.com and use the code Dixon for 10% off your EnviroKlenz home air purification unit and free air quality monitor. Plus, you'll get fast free shipping. That's $150 savings. That's ekpure.com, code Dixon, ekpure.com, code Dixon. All right. I want to get back into this hunting situation because you talked about something really important. You talked about doves, but you talked about deer. And I want to ask you what you think about what's going on with this attack on hunting. I want to talk to you about it because we struggled to get hunters in Michigan to go out and vote, but they just changed some rules. Now you have to report your deer harvest within 72 hours. And I've got folks telling me, hey, if I'm at deer camp, I might not have that time. I might not have that connectivity to report. If you're up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, can you really do that? Is this just another attack from government on hunting?
Well, Tudor, number one, I think your sponsor is called EnviroKlenz because that is the most important thing. I got to get one of those units because a healthy lifestyle is the basis of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And with that in mind, so is the hunting lifestyle. I'm 75 years clean and sober because I was disciplined in the stealth of a reasoning predator by my dad and the great Fred Bear, the Nugent family. And as I mentioned, literally tens of millions more family hours of recreation is happening right now while you and I are speaking on the opening day of dove season around the nation, because the dove is the number one, not only the number one game bird in the world, it's the number one game creature pursued by more family hours of recreation. Very important point. The recreation of our spirit and our energy and our soul, the recharging of our batteries by the healing powers of nature as a participant, as we balance the flocks and balance the herds to maximize the air, soil, and water cleansing of our environment and quality of life. But in Michigan, my beloved birth state of Michigan, I work in all 50 states. All 50 states have game departments that have anti-hunters and animal rights maniacs involved. And in my beloved state of Michigan, I'm afraid as I communicate every day, Tudor, literally everywhere I go, with the sushi bar, the Whole Foods, and in the coffee shop where you wouldn't think it would be like Ted Nugent zone. It is a Ted Nugent zone because environmentalism starts with hands-on conservation, which is hunting, fishing, and trapping. And across the board, I have yet to find a Michigan resident that respects the Michigan Department of Natural Resources or the Michigan Natural Resource Commission. They have turned into soulless, power-abusing, I believe, criminal anti-hunting bureaucrats. And when I say things like that, people go, oh, as if they would be anti-hunters of the Department of Natural Resources. Follow me on this outrageous statement I'm about to share with you. The sandhill crane is a federal migratory game bird. In those regions, like all wildlife management based on sustained yield, population dynamics, and sheer numbers, the sandhill crane is so overpopulated in Michigan that finally we raised enough hell with the DNR and the NRC. I can't believe they have anything to say about what conservationists do. So instead of opening the season and turning the sandhill crane into an asset, it was destroying tens of millions of dollars of agriculture every year. The farmers hate them because they're overpopulated.
Oh, you drive down the street. For people that don't know, you drive down the street, you look into farmers' fields, and you just see them all over the farmers' fields picking out the seeds.
Yep, and instead of turning them into an asset, a renewable resource, family hours of recreation, millions of dollars in revenues for mom and pop businesses, sporting goods, licenses, beer, lodging, hotels, restaurant, travel, ice. Literally, they said you can kill the ribeye in the sky. The sandhill crane is known as the ribeye in the sky. I don't need to explain what that means. Well, the DNR determined so immorally, they are so immoral up in Lansing, that they said you can shoot the ribeye in the sky, but it's against the law to eat them.
No.
Tudor, that is so immoral that this guitar player, this sportsman, this father, husband, brother, and entrepreneur has decided that if a bureaucrat is that immoral, I will not obey them. They're immoral. They call their number one game bird, which is the mourning dove, they call it a songbird, but the picture of a mourning dove is on shotgun shell boxes. They don't put songbird pictures on shotgun shell boxes. My point being, I could go on with thousands of examples where these bureaucrats have turned on the people who pay their salaries, which is why Ted Nugent is known as a hellraiser, because we got to start by taking it back. I don't think they want us to be independent and self-sufficient and feed ourselves. That's what I think.
No. And I think that people don't understand. If this is not your thing, if you're not a hunter, you're not a fisher, you may not understand. When you talk about these agencies, I know people get all uptight and they say, oh, how can you say that stuff? So as I traveled around the state, you hear personal stories. And one I will never forget. I was in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and they said, what are you going to do about these agencies that are out of control? Because they're giving us misdemeanors left and right. And they know that if they give us a misdemeanor, that takes away our concealed carry. And I said, well, what do you mean? They said that I was sitting with these two guys, and they're probably my age. So their mom is probably in her early 70s, maybe late 60s. And she says, I was fishing with my sons, and we were throwing one of the fish back, and I pushed it off the boat with my foot. And we immediately had a DNR boat come up and arrest her and give her a ticket because they said she was abusing the wildlife, and she immediately got a misdemeanor and she had her CPL taken away.
Tudor, again, if you could travel around with me, I'm so honored and humbled that people approach me everywhere. Yeah, they want to talk about killer guitar tones and wonderful love songs and this fire-breathing career of mine. But more often than a musical conversation, I'd say 9 out of 10 conversations are about conservation and the abuses. I could give you, again, we don't have 100 hours to give examples, but there was a 12-year-old boy that lived to bow hunt. He loved it. He fell in love with it. He heard my Fred Bear song. He saw me on the Spirit of the Wild TV, and he saw how much fun I was having, so he became a bow hunter. He got a $150 fine for not having his bow case zipped up. And he was another young man, 18-year-old, was given a fine because he moved apples from the apple orchard tree that was producing apples closer to the apple tree that he was hunting out of, like some idiot would say that if you move the apples from under the tree over to this tree, then a chronic wasting disease will happen. These people are liars. They are immoral. They need to be replaced with real conservationists. I believe that nobody in a game department should ever be hired unless they can prove they've had a hunting, fishing, and trapping license for 25 years to prove that they're one of us and believe in sound science-based conservation. The game departments across this country are out of control.
So let's just talk about some numbers to put this into perspective, because I think people truly, if you aren't a hunter, you may not understand, but I know that if you aren't a hunter, you likely do drive your car. So let me put this into perspective. In Michigan, we are number 4 in the nation for likelihood of hitting an animal while driving. Your chances are 1 in 51. I mean, think about that. And just so we have like the full number, last year, we had nearly 60,000 car accidents involving deer. We have an overpopulation of deer like you would not believe. And they give out deer tags like they're giving out like lifeblood. You know, they're like, oh my goodness, I don't know how we're going to actually allow people to hunt these deer. We have such an overpopulation of deer. There are streets that I know if I drive down, I have to drive down them while I'm looking through the woods because I know the deer are constantly popping out of the woods into the street.
Yeah, there's quite a dynamic here. And again, I've been at this all my life. I started hunting in 1949 on my dad's back in the Oklahoma State Forest. I haven't missed a season since 1949 at the age of 10 months. Now, I didn't kill anything that year, but I was there in camp. So it's in my blood. Plus, God made me a hunter. God literally made me
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That it's what I am. And I'm willing to buy a license if the bureaucracies that I am financing actually listen to sound science, which in Michigan we passed Proposition 6 that forced the Department of Natural Resources to make all wildlife laws based on sound science, and they're not doing that. You know, I'm going to take
people who choose to be sound science are not necessarily the people that know science.
You know, sound science with experimental shots and Dr. Fauci and
right, exactly.
Work. That's a whole nother world. But in the world of hunting, because it is September 1st, it's a very special day. And my friends have been calling me about dove hunting, deer hunting, elk hunting, moose hunting, bighorn sheep, and caribou up in Alaska. All across this country, people are hunting deer. Michigan should start September 1st for the bow and arrow and go all the way to February 1st. Now, I'm going to take a breather here. Now, dig this. This is a rare moment. I'm going to applaud the first time that the Michigan Department of Natural Resources appears to have done something right. We have put so much pressure on them. Chad Stewart, who's the deer specialist, I don't know how he faces his family, the immorality of their decision, but they did make a good one. When I get my deer management assistant program permits here shortly, I can start hunting does right away. And there are soup kitchens and homeless shelters and neighbors and farmers and friends and family and bandmates and crew that love and cherish the venison. We lose I'm sure it's way more than tens of millions of agriculture income every year because of the overpopulation. Believe me, turkeys, we are not adequately harvesting the turkeys. Turkeys will destroy a bean field and like the sandhill cranes and the deer, just like they're migrating starlings and blackbirds. There's so much going on. My point is, I don't have any opinions about God's miraculous creation. I'm much too humble and knowledgeable for that. I happen to know the population dynamics, the carrying capacity of habitat, the winter severity index, and the fluctuations in weather conditions, which impact productivity in the spring for all wildlife. But we are irresponsibly, I believe criminally, underutilizing black bears, wolves.
Yeah, wolves is a big deal because, we passed that proposition years ago.
Turkey. We need to doves. We need to get a wildlife department, not just in Michigan. Texas is doing some horrible things right now. Every state has some horrible regulations. But I love Michigan so much. I'm here every September, October, up to Thanksgiving. I have family and friends, and I recruit new young people. We raise lots of money for children's charities with hunts that I sell because I'm so much fun around the campfire. The point being is, thank you for being a voice for conservation. Conservation is the wise, responsible, reverential use of wildlife. And we're not doing that for wolves. We're not doing that for bear. We're not even doing that for the elk. We could increase the elk. Think if they auctioned off a couple of elk tags every year to raise money for a children's charity or a military charity. Michigan is not on the cutting edge.
So
It's
that
way
goes way beyond that, and that's something that we had talked about a lot on the campaign. So what, for people who don't know, we have a big elk population in the middle of northern Michigan there, and we do have some elk tags that go out to folks in Michigan, but we don't do it outside of the state. And there is an opportunity not only to bring money in for charity or even for conservation within the state, or just to maybe even take our trails and improve our trails out here in the state of Michigan, but also to bring hunting tourism into the state. This is something that could really impact the state dollars wise. It's something we need. We need other people paying our taxes. We need to bring people in. We have great resources to bring people into the state, not only hunting, there's beaches, there's skiing. There are all kinds of reasons to come to the state of Michigan. And if we were to do some of these things, just like what you just said, with auctioning off these tags, we could potentially be bringing people in from other states and having them see how amazing Michigan is and increasing our tourism into this state. That's how Florida has no income tax. That's how these other states have no income tax. They let other people come into their state and pay their taxes, and we could be doing that here.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I know hundreds, just my own personal circle of great shit kickers. I have great working hard, playing hard friends all across the state of Michigan. And they've all gone to Kansas and South Dakota and North Dakota and Wyoming and Montana. They're all leaving the state because all those deer seasons open September 1st.
Mm-hmm.
In Kentucky, Tennessee, they all open September 1st. Why not Michigan? And here's the point. Well, that's too early. The fawns are still nursing. No, they're not. I saw 6 fawns this morning and they were eating alfalfa and eating my food plot. They're independent already. That was a biological sound science decision. And Tudor, we're talking billions of dollars that are not coming into Michigan. They're going elsewhere.
Yep.
If I was in charge, I would fire everybody. I would get rid of the Natural Resource Commission because it's just a stroke. It's just somebody's appointed. They have no qualifications. And the Department of Natural Resources are just turning into jackboot thugs, telling me I can't eat a sandhill crane ribeye in the sky, calling the mourning dove a songbird. I mean, you can call a white-tailed deer a songbird if you want, but it'll never be one. These people are out of control. I could bring in billions if we would auction off black bear tags, wolf tags, elk tags, maybe a state.
This is what other states are doing. People don't believe
what they're all
this.
doing. Yes.
And bringing, but you're think about the money, bringing billions in, but also preventing hundreds of thousands of insurance claims from car accidents. And, we've had friends that have had deaths in their families from deer car crashes with deer. I mean, this is preventing a massive amount of pain and bringing in money, stopping the outflow of money from insurance companies, bringing in money to the state. And it's like people refuse to acknowledge that this has to be done. We cannot live with this amount of car accidents. And you talk about the turkeys. For people outside of the state of Michigan, I've had people move here and I'm like, what is that? I see turkeys every single day on my way to work. Turkeys, constantly stopping to the flow of traffic because the turkeys are crossing the road, and they are huge creatures.
Yes, and they're delicious creatures, and they're very challenging.
They're really
They're very
ugly,
safe. Stop and think of this bizarre stupidity. So in Michigan, you have to apply for a turkey tag in the spring, which historically that means that it's a limited resource, and we can only designate a number of tags because it's a limited resource. Unfortunately, that doesn't hold any water because in the fall you can shoot a turkey a day for 60 days. It's planet of the cuckoo's nest here in Michigan. So again, if there are any good people in the DNR and the NRC, I'm only talking about the bad people. Only the guilty need to feel guilty. But I'm telling you, across this state, the wonderful winter water wonderland of my birth, the land of Fred Bear, the land of the greatest conservation families in the nation, I promise you. I've hunted in every state, and Michigan has the dedicated conservation families. The DNR does not represent us. And they are across the board, hunters, fishermen, trappers, outdoor recreationists, they're just really upset that someone would get a fine and a ticket for pushing a fish off the boat with their foot. I suppose you can gaff them, but you can't push them with your foot. There's no sense. So I'm a truth, logic, and common sense guy, which, by the way, Tudor, how much I love you, because I listen to you, I watch what you do, and you stand for the best families in Michigan. And I wish like hell you were governor. I wish we had a government in Michigan that wasn't so embarrassing, so corrupt, so Joe Biden-like. It's just an embarrassing time. But on that note, I am going to have the greatest hunting season of my life. My family and friends are coming. We're going to open up the October. Actually, there's going to be the early doe season with firearms, which there shouldn't be, because Fred Bear established an early archery quiet season, and the DNR threw that away. You got guns going off before the bow and arrow. And I'm a gun hunter and a bow hunter, but there's supposed to be an early archery quiet season, and the DNR just gave Fred Bear the middle finger. And people are really gun hunters and bow hunters. We're all conservationists. Everybody's really upset with the DNR, and they won't even discuss it with me. They're cowards. They won't debate me because they know I'll turn them into Pierce Morgan.
Well, I think that's what people are hearing today. You're coming from a place of knowledge, and that's the really sad thing about the state of Michigan. We had big plans to bring a lot of money here, but those plans are not dashed. They're just pushed off to the future. We still have the opportunity. Michigan remains one of the most beautiful states in the nation with the richest resources out there. I mean, not only do we have great resources in wildlife, but we have great resources in water, and we have to protect that. But I want to get to protecting that because now we have Gretchen Whitmer partnered up with a Chinese communist company called Goshen. Just yesterday, we saw that the Goshen Party Committee, the CCP Party Committee within Goshen, had 22 members of leadership sitting in a meeting with President Xi. I mean, think about this. You've got Li Zhen, the CEO of the American subsidiary of Goshen, who is the secretary of their Chinese Communist Party Committee within Goshen. We were told this is all on the up and up. These guys are not with the Chinese Communist Party. They're moving right into the heart of Michigan. They're taking 1 square mile. They're going to be using our water. They're going to be using our land. They're going to be spying on our neighbors. They're going to be spying on our military bases. Why would Gretchen Whitmer allow this? And how dangerous do you think it is?
Well, number one, the reason she does it because she's a puppet of the Joe Biden gangster family. I mean, the whole Democrat Party has lost its soul. No one can name one thing they stand for that is good for America. Gretchen Whitmer and her attorney general and all the Democrats in Michigan are basically Whoopi Cushion Goldberg fans, like Michael Moore fans, like Joe Biden and Hunter Biden fans. There is not a separation between the atrocities of Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and what Gretchen Whitmer and her Democrats are doing across the state and across the nation. Stop and think about it. Tens of millions of military-age men have invaded our country, including Chinese nationals, including Somalians and Nigerians and Venezuelans and Iraqians and Afghanistans. If that's not cultural and spiritual and patriotic suicide, and Gretchen Whitmer is on their side, and she has welcomed the communist Chinese monsters to run businesses in Michigan. Gretchen, I'll put it real clear for everybody. Would a Jewish family hire a Nazi to cater their bar mitzvah? What an outrageous statement that is, but it's accurate when it comes to Gretchen Whitmer. She's working with the enemies of mankind, the communist Chinese, and they're destroying agricultural ground, putting in these toxic environmental destructo derby wind turbines and solar panels, reducing food production and toxifying our environment with these non-renewable resources that when they go bad, there's no place to put the wind turbine blades and their motors that are going to wear out, and their gazillions of forests that were destroyed to create them. And these solar panels, Solyndra, anybody? I mean, this is literally planet of the cuckoo's nest criminality by Gretchen Whitmer and an entire Democrat Party. And that's why I'm raising hell. And let me clarify for everyone. My name is Ted Nugent. I'm a free man, Believe it or not, even in this old body, I'm created in the image and likeness of God. And I have certain inalienable rights. We wrote them down in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I am a radical. You know how extreme and radical I am? I experiment in self-government. It's the most radical thing in the history of the human experience. And people condemn me for demanding truth, logic, and common sense and constitutional accountability. Gretchen Whitmer and her entire Democrat Party under the Joe Biden, Whoopi Cushion Goldberg fan club, they violate the constitutional oath every hour. And we keep letting them get away with it. And I think it's time for conservative. Let me say this. HunterNation.org. Somebody get a hold of me at HunterNation.org. It's not even really about hunting. It's about overall freedom and getting the conservative licensed hunting families of Michigan and the nation to vote their traditional family values. I don't even have to tell you who to vote for. If you believe in God, family, country, law and order, Constitution, Bill of Rights, the work ethic that made the greatest quality of life, if you believe in that, you have to vote. Everybody, and I know we
and
wonder.
that's that struggle we've had with our hunters here in Michigan is getting them
Yes.
to vote. And I'm like, why are you not? Look at what has happened. And I think just what we talked about today here is how great Michigan can be as this place. When you started, you talked about that moment with family, that time to relax, to recharge your own batteries, being out in nature. We have that here. We are so blessed to have that in so many different ways, whether it is going out on the big lake, the little lakes, to be out in the forest, to be out on the sand dunes. Every place you can
Yes.
go in Michigan, it's just like this beautiful painting from God, no matter where you are. And it's so important for those hunters to recognize that, to retain that freedom, to retain that time with family. They always have this attitude of like, well, we want to be left alone, so we leave you alone. The only way you get left alone is that you continue to that self-governance, that we the people remains.
Amen, amen, ditto, ditto, ditto. HunterNation.org. We're galvanizing conservative families to stand up and start raising hell, to get freedom back, to get self-evident truth back into policymaking. And Tudor, you represent us so well. I'm honored to be here. I have a Ted Nugent Real America's Voice. I think RealAmericaVoice.com or something. But I do a weekly Ted Nugent Real America Voice Spirit Campfire. My incredible wife, Shemaine, does a Real America Voice Faith and Freedom. I also have a nightly nude on YouTube, even though I've been banned on Facebook because truth, logic, and common sense violates their community standards. How insane are those people? But I also have for over 33 years the Ted Nugent Spirit of the Wild TV show 8 times a week now on the Pursuit channel. And I bring up these points, and I've galvanized nowhere near enough, but at least some of the hunting families to stand up and fight for freedom, to get rid of the bow case law. You know, when I started bow hunting, some man decided I couldn't climb a tree. Like some man thought he had control over my tree climbing. I couldn't climb a tree when I started. It was against the law. So I changed that. There were 11 counties in Michigan where you weren't allowed to hunt on Sunday. I can't hunt the first week of November on a Sunday. Some man thinks he can control that? I had to have my bow in a case. What role does a bow case play in conservation? So I got rid of these stupid anti-hunting laws, and people who know truth, logic, and common sense, they thank me. People that are zombies and out of their mind, comfortably numb, which is actually uncomfortably dumb, those people hate me, which proves that I'm on the right course. So everybody, HunterNation.org. It's time to take this wonderful state back from the bureaucrats that are ruining everything.
So if you want to watch Ted Nugent's show, if you want to download on your phone the Pluto app, I know you can get it on Pluto. I think it's Roku too, right? You can get it on Roku.
I'm thinking that my technical family members know how to do all that. All I know is I start the camera, I push the record button, and I make smart ass statements. The point is that Ted Nugent's Spirit of the Wild, and the reason we're the #1 hunting show ever is because of Shemaine Nugent. She does a Queen of the Forest segment. When she and I first met, she'd never touched a bow and arrow. She couldn't imagine killing her own dinner. She never fired a gun. But Tudor, I fixed her. Now she's become the Queen of the Forest, and she is when Shemaine grabs her Matthews bow, I sharpen my knife because there's going to be dinner coming soon. The point being is that Ted Nugent's Spirit of the Wild, we celebrate the mystical flight of the arrow, conservation, the Fred Bear legacy, the hunting, fishing, trapping, essentiality of environmental stewardship. But what Shemaine does on her Queen of the Forest segments is the reason our Spirit of the Wild show has been the #1 show for 33 years, because people see that we live reverence for God's miraculous creation as hands-on participants. So thank you, everybody, for all that support.
Before I let you go, you talked about being a radical. You talked about getting kicked off of Facebook. But before we got on here, I was talking to you about something that was very special to me. And you made the point, if this is if this is when people are reaching out to you, you must not be that bad of a guy, because I have my husband's uncle went on one of your hunting trips, and he wanted so desperately. They have such respect for you and what you do, and just the knowledge that we've heard here today on conservation and how deep your knowledge and your work has been to make sure that hunting is free, to change those laws, all of that. There is a group of people out there that just love and respect you so much. And so when my husband's uncle's friend was at his end stage of cancer, when he was about to move on to his heavenly home, they said, we really want to spend a time out there hunting with Ted Nugent. And they did that. They spent time on one of your hunting trips. And I just want you to know that it was so meaningful to them. And I think it is so amazing that you do that. And I think that's something people don't really know, but it's a side of you that is truly, I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
It really is. I am so moved and honored that since the 1960s, when I was a loudmouth on the radio, which, by the way, the founding fathers wanted all Americans to be just like me.
You're right. That's true.
Blow whistles, demand accountability, to be suspicious of authority. That's what I am. I'm the embodiment of the Declaration of Independence. I don't tread on anybody, but I don't let anybody tread on me. My point being is that I've always been a loudmouth. So when I do my rock and roll radio interviews talking about the incredible songs and the energy of my music, people would always hear me promote hunting, archery discipline, my relationship with Fred Bear and my dad every October in Michigan with my bow and arrow. And that resonated because it was unprecedented in the world of rock and roll radio. And a young man named Ryan was 17 years old. I was 19. And he had terminal cancer. He only had a few months to live. He got a hold of us through my booking agent, Diversified Management, Southfield. And since that time, this has happened dozens and dozens of times, where before they die, they want to go hunting with me. Little boys and girls, Tudor, 6-year-old little boys, 7-year-old little girls, they're dying of cancer, and their last request is to go hunting with the whackmaster, because what I exude resonates with a clear mind, and the young people have a clear mind. The people I've taken on their last request, I don't cry around the campfire, because I know it's their last experience, and they honored me beyond description to choose to spend it with me, which means that when I open my big mouth, I represent the spirit of the best people in the world. So those that hate me hate the spirit of the best people in the world. And until Michael Moore or Whoopi Cushion Goldberg or Gretchen Whitmer shares a campfire with a dying little boy or a little girl because they mean something to them, they might want to just kiss my ass, because I am special enough to qualify for those families in this difficult, emotional time of their lives to choose the old guitar player to say goodbye to their loved ones, which proves that I'm an okay guy in the hearts and minds of good people, which means that in the hearts and minds of bad people, I offend them. My spirit irritates their demons. I couldn't be more proud.
Well, God bless you. And God bless you for doing that. I know that comes from the heart. It comes from a lifelong of understanding what it means to be family and take care of others. And family is all of the people of the church. So I appreciate what you do. And I thank you so much for being on here with us today, Ted Nugent.
Well, Tudor, I'm going to have you on my Real America's Voice, and Shemaine wants you on her Real America Voice, Faith and Freedom. You're doing God's work, literally. You're literally doing God's work because you stand up for the divinely intervened U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights. So we pray for your strength. We pray for America, and we're about to pray for the greatest Michigan hunting season in my 75 years. And God bless. But everybody, please raise hell. Join us at hunternation.org, and let's take this state back. Let's take this country back. We, the people, can and must do it ASAP.
Yes, thank you so much. And make sure you check him out on Friday nights at 10 p.m. on Real America's Voice. And when he says he's praying for me, it's so funny because there are times when I'll be out there on TV or something, and I just get this random Ted Nugent text that's like, "Amen, you did it. That's great." And it really is so reassuring, and it's so nice to know that you're out there watching. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us on the Tudor Dixon Podcast for this episode and others. Go to TudorDixonPodcast.com. You can subscribe right there, or check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And join us next time on the Tudor Dixon Podcast. Have a blessed day.